The Deathworld GA Chapter 1, First Contact. Ambassador Keth'ara of the Zephyrian Collective had seen many worlds in her 3 centuries of diplomatic service. Crystal spires of the crystalline hegemony, the floating bio-cities of the verdant alliance, even the magnificent orbital rings of the ancient predecessor ruins. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared her for the sheer, unrelenting hostility of the third planet orbiting the star humans called Sol. "Remind me again why we're attempting contact with a species that evolved on this," she muttered to her aide, Veltar, as their diplomatic vessel shuddered through another atmospheric disturbance. "Because, Ambassador, they somehow achieved faster-than-light travel despite their circumstances," Veltar replied, his 4 eyes darting nervously between the sensor readings. "The Science Council is most curious about their methods." The ship's AI chimed in with its perpetually calm voice, atmospheric analysis complete. Oxygen content, 21%. Highly corrosive. Nitrogen, 78%. Trace gases include carbon dioxide, argon, and various other compounds. Warning, atmosphere is toxic to Zephyrian physiology. Environmental suits required. Keth'ara's feathers ruffled in dismay. An oxygen-rich atmosphere was the mark of a Deathworld, a planet so violent and hostile that only the most aggressive life forms could survive. The fact that an entire sapient species had not only survived but thrived here was unsettling. Surface temperature varying between -40 and +50 degrees Celsius, the AI continued cheerfully. Current weather patterns show multiple active storm systems, including what humans term a hurricane, with wind speeds exceeding 200 km per hour. By the 7 moons, Keth'ara breathed. And they live in this? The view screen flickered to life, showing the planet's surface in horrifying detail. Vast oceans churned with waves the size of mountains. Continents scarred by massive geological features, mountain ranges that dwarfed anything in civilized space, deserts that could swallow entire star systems, and forests so dense they seemed to writhe with predatory life. "Ambassador," Veltar said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider. The humans have responded to our diplomatic overtures, but we could conduct negotiations in space, safely away from that." Before Keth'ara could respond, a new voice crackled through the communications array, speaking perfect galactic standard, though with an odd accent. "Zephyrian vessel, this is Houston Control. We have you on approach vector. Welcome to Earth. We're absolutely thrilled to meet you. We've prepared a landing site at coordinates we're transmitting now. Don't worry about the weather, we're experiencing a lovely spring day here in Texas." Keth'ara and Veltar exchanged glances. The sensor readings showed surface temperatures of 38 degrees Celsius, humidity at 97%, and atmospheric pressure that would crush most civilized species. The humans called this lovely. "Ah, Houston Control," Keth'ara replied carefully, "we appreciate your enthusiasm. However, our species requires significant environmental protection. Perhaps we could meet in orbit." A pause. Then, "Oh, absolutely. We totally understand. We've prepared a full environmental facility for you. Climate-controlled, atmospheric processors, the works. We've been looking forward to this for months. We've even prepared some of our local cuisine to share, though we can adjust the spice levels if needed." Spice levels? Keth'ara thought. These Deathworlders seasoned their food with chemicals that would likely qualify as biological weapons. "That's very thoughtful," she managed. "We accept your gracious invitation." As their ship descended through the turbulent atmosphere, dodging electrical storms that could power entire cities, Keth'ara wondered what they had gotten themselves into. Chapter 2, The Greeting Committee. The landing site was a marvel of engineering, even by galactic standards. The humans had constructed what appeared to be a complete environmental habitat in the middle of their spaceport, a gleaming dome that promised breathable atmosphere and survivable conditions. Around it, despite the blazing heat and crushing humidity, hundreds of humans had gathered. They were smaller than expected. The average human barely reached Keth'ara's shoulder, and they looked remarkably fragile. No thick carapaces, no natural armor, no obvious weapons. Just pale, soft-looking skin and what appeared to be decorative coverings. They look so vulnerable, Veltar whispered as they prepared to disembark. Appearances can be deceiving, Keth'ara reminded him, though privately she agreed. How had such fragile-looking creatures not only survived but dominated a Deathworld? The airlock cycled, and they stepped into the prepared habitat. The atmosphere was perfect, clean, filtered, and properly balanced. The temperature was a comfortable 22 degrees. The humans had even included some native Zephyrian flora, though Keth'ara couldn't imagine where they'd acquired it. Ambassador Keth'ara. A human stepped forward, wearing what appeared to be formal dress despite the hostile environment outside. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Director of Extraterrestrial Relations. Welcome to Earth. The human extended a hand, apparently a greeting gesture. Keth'ara cautiously reached out with one of her own manipulator appendages, expecting perhaps a ritual combat grip or dominance display. Instead, the human simply grasped it gently and moved it up and down several times. It's such an honor, Dr. Chen continued, her face contorting in what Keth'ara's briefings indicated was a smile, a baring of teeth that somehow indicated friendliness rather than aggression. We've prepared quite a program for you. Would you like to see some of our facilities? We thought you might be interested in our agricultural centers. Agriculture? Keth'ara was intrigued despite herself. You practice agriculture on a Deathworld? Dr. Chen's smile widened. Oh yes. We're quite proud of our farming. Would you like to see? The tour began in what the humans called a greenhouse, a transparent structure that somehow maintained perfect growing conditions despite the hellish environment outside. Inside, rows upon rows of plants grew in neat, orderly lines. The abundance was staggering. This is just one of our experimental facilities, Dr. Chen explained casually. We're working on developing crops that can grow in even more challenging environments. Mars, for instance. Mars? Veltar squeaked. You mean that frozen desert world we passed? Oh, we've got a colony there too. Small, but growing. The low gravity makes for interesting agricultural possibilities, though the dust storms are a bit of a challenge. Keth'ara stared at the human. You have a colony. On a world with no atmosphere. In a system where radiation levels would sterilize most known life forms. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds worse than it is, Dr. Chen laughed, a sound that in most species would indicate either madness or aggression, but in humans apparently signified amusement. The radiation isn't that bad if you know how to shield against it. And the lack of atmosphere just means we have to bring our own. It's really quite manageable. They moved to another section, where humans in protective gear were working with plants that made Keth'ara's toxicity sensors scream warnings. Those are some of the most poisonous plants in the galaxy, she gasped. Oh, these? Yeah, we call them Carolina Reapers. We use them in cooking. Want to try one? Dr. Chen held up a small, innocuous-looking fruit. That's a biological weapon. Nah, it's just spicy. Though I guess if you're not used to capsaicin, it might be a bit intense. We'll stick to milder stuff for dinner. As they walked, Keth'ara began to notice something odd. Despite the clearly lethal environment outside, the humans moved with casual confidence. Children, actual juveniles, were playing in areas that would require full environmental suits for most species. Adults worked in gardens where a single mistake could mean death by toxic exposure or predation. Tell me, Keth'ara said carefully, do you consider this world dangerous? Dr. Chen paused, considering. I suppose it can be. We lose a few thousand people a year to natural disasters, weather, wild animals, that sort of thing. But that's just life, you know. The planet gives us challenges, but it also gives us everything we need to meet them. A few thousand a year. In most civilized worlds, a single death from environmental causes would be a tragedy requiring governmental investigation. These humans accepted thousands of casualties as normal. But surely, Veltar interjected, your species must have originally evolved on a more hospitable world. Perhaps you're colonists from somewhere else in the galaxy. Dr. Chen looked puzzled. No, we're native to Earth. This is our home. Has been for a few million years, depending on how you count evolutionary development. Million years? Keth'ara felt faint. You've survived on this death world for millions of years. Well, sure. Where else would we go? This is where all our stuff is. Chapter 3, The Garden Tour. The next morning, if morning had any meaning on a world where the star was periodically blocked by massive atmospheric disturbances, Dr. Chen led them to what she called the main agricultural complex. Keth'ara had expected something like the controlled environment facilities of civilized worlds, sterile, enclosed, carefully regulated. Instead, they emerged from the environmental dome into the outside. The assault on her senses was immediate and overwhelming. The air itself seemed to writhe with moisture and heat. Strange chemical compounds, some floral, some organic, some unidentifiable, flooded her suit's filters. In the distance, she could see massive weather formations that would have been classified as natural disasters on any civilized world. Isn't it beautiful? Dr. Chen said, breathing deeply of the toxic atmosphere. Spring in East Texas. Everything's coming alive. What Keth'ara saw could only be described as a barely controlled riot of life. Plants grew with an aggression that seemed almost predatory. Trees reached heights that should have been structurally impossible. Flowers bloomed in colors that hurt to look at. And everywhere, moving through this chaos with casual confidence, were humans. This is your agriculture, she managed. Well, this is more like our yard, Dr. Chen admitted. The real farms are a bit more organized. But we like to keep some native habitat around. It's good for the ecosystem. They walked along pathways that wound through what could only be described as a green hell. Plants that could strangle a Zephyrian in seconds were used as decorative borders. Trees that secreted toxins capable of dissolving hull plating were casually identified as shade trees. Oh, watch out for that one, Dr. Chen said, pointing to a seemingly innocent flowering bush. That's poison ivy. It'll give you a nasty rash. Keth'ara's scanners indicated the plant produced contact toxins that would cause severe chemical burns to most known species. The humans considered it a minor inconvenience. They reached the agricultural area, and Keth'ara's understanding of reality suffered another blow. Vast fields stretched to the horizon, covered in crops that grew directly in the